Hello again. Welcome back to another daily Binding of Isaac Repentance. It's another day. Oh boy. We're gonna do another cane run for funds. It's April 1st, 2022. Seed here is MVNZWLJD. So happy. Oh, this is interesting. We got, because we picked up that one thing. Eden's Blessing. Yep. So it's April Fool's Day. You guys been fooled yet? By the time this video comes out, it's like the next day. Yeah. Hope you're all fooled. Hope you're gonna get fooled someday. Haha. Like today. Haha. I haven't been fooled yet. Not yet, at least. Unless YouTube be like, oh yeah, there's issues with uploading your video today. Haha, just kidding. My router was having issues earlier. And I'm like, okay. Why do you give me the issues? And so I had to unplug it and replug everything back in, and it was working. I tried some other stuff too, and it wasn't working. Just some kind of a glitch. The Matrix. That or my router's playing April Fools on me. Haha, your network's out. Better go unplug it. Happy April Fools. If companies did that, like make an April Fool joke of like having your internet disconnected and you have to reset everything, that'd be a lot of lawsuits. And I'm not saying like in the sense of like, you know, how do I put it in words? Lawsuits not being like egregious or anything like, you know, malicious. I'm saying like there are people out there in some companies that will like not take a joke and they would will try to sue you. I mean, that's why like you look at trends with I mean, not trends. Like over the years, you see like warning labels and stuff. It's like, do not eat this soap. Do not give this to a child. Da, da. It's not that like it's targeted to just you. It's targeted to everybody. And the thing that people have to realize is there are stupid people out there who would do any of that kind of stuff, whether intentional or not. And causes bodily harm or death of themselves or others. Like, oh wow, I didn't have a warning label. Well, I mean, like, for example, there was a thing about there was a thing I seen, a little clip. I guess like an old documentary clip, and because of this lawsuit, this kind of started the chain of events with liability warnings. But it was with regards to the drawstrings on these, what do you call these things? Blinds, that's right. So back then they used to not have any warning labels, and you think like, okay. But then it's like something happened to where a child got caught into it and it's asphyxiated themselves. And that was that. Now, the thing about that is, I'm not going to go too much into this, but like, there was no warning labels. I get it. And there was warning labels after the fact. And somehow the parents didn't know that this can happen to a child. Well, the thing is, it's string. I mean, it's very, you know, it's very thick string. It's very durable. I mean, it's common sense not to wrap your neck around it, but a child, you know, it's different. Either they do it by accident or on purpose. They don't mean to suffocate themselves, though. But having said that, it's like, so they had this big lawsuit with the settlement, I think, with that. And, well, Not saying that they're in the wrong or anything, but I could say it could be partly both their faults. Because this is what gets a little controversial, I guess, with talking about you know, whose fault it was with what happened to their child. The thing about that lawsuit is, well, yeah, I suppose you have to put the warnings out there because there's actually people out there who don't have a clue, like, at all, period. I suppose there's that, which it's like, well, should it be obvious that there's, like, hanging string there that a child can get caught up into and get killed? Or anybody in general? Or like a plastic sack over somebody's head and they die of asphyxiation? Now, I know back in the 90s there was this, when Pokemon was first starting to take off, they were selling these Pokemon balls. I think either at Burger King or, that's really good. Burger King or McDonald's, something like that. I have one of these, a few of these. I never took them back. Why would I take it back for a free meal? You kidding me? A toy's more valuable than a free meal. Anyways, so what happened was some toddler, some mother gave this this toddler this Pokeball to play with. Of course, she wasn't putting the two together whatsoever. And the kid put it over his mouth, and of course he suffocated to death. Now, I'm not blaming the child because the child had no control, really. I mean, he or she was playing with it, and children don't know much about anything, especially toddlers. I mean, they're a little suicidal if you don't watch it. I mean, not intentionally. They're not very careful yet until they grow up. That's why you have to keep an eye on a child at all costs, like an adult. And so what happened was this lady just gives it to this child, or it was a lady or a man or somebody, parents, single mother. I don't know which one it was, but like it was somebody, and gave it to the child. And where you know it, the child suffocated, right? And then it's like, okay, well, I mean, not to be an a-hole or anything, but like it was your fault. I'm being sincere. Like, I'm not laughing at the kid's death or anything. It's a terrible thing, but it's just like then you turn around and you sue the company. Well, I mean, this what typically happens with big companies. It's like they try to find a way to cash out. It's like, how can I like take advantage of this like ordeal that was totally my fault, but I want to deflect it. Oh, I know. It's sue a multi-million-dollar company. It happens a lot, believe it or not. There's a lot of that. Or these, we call them patent trolls. There's those. Sue people for patent stuff. Or filing frivolous lawsuits. Then they had one documentary I watched about a lady in the McDonald's hot coffee thing. And she spilled it on her lap. She got like burns. I don't know all the details because like they could be both at fault, but for me, I think it's pretty. I guess back then the coffee was much more hotter. I guess so that way. So they reduced the heat and did other things to fix it. I guess that's partly their fault. But I think at the same time, I don't even know how she spilled her coffee. I don't think it was thrown at her. I don't know all the details. But like, for me, it's like, well, if someone gives me a hot coffee, I'm gonna be freaking careful with it. I burnt my hand a little bit. Probably not as degree of what she had it when it was like super hot back then, where it used to be like really bad, really hot. But I burned my hand. Not severely, like her. So I know she was an elderly woman, so there's that too. But for me, it's like I can understand about negligence, like a type of negligence that, you know, somebody drops a crane on you and kills you, and then your family, you know, has to, you know, deal with that ordeal, and there was no safety measures in place. I can understand something like that. But then it's something like where it's like, oh, he put the Pokeball over his mouth. And he died, and I didn't expect this to happen. Well, there's a lot of different factors in play with that. They're both terrible tragedies, but like... And that's the thing with lawsuits, too. Okay, I'm just kind of be forewarned. I am not a legal, like, practicer of law. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson. Or not even a spokesperson, but you know those commercials. It's like, I'm a non-attorney spokesperson, and they have to say that. I think for legality reasons. I'm not an attorney. I don't practice law or anything like that. So just keep that in mind. I'm just giving you opinions of what I think of these kind of things. I used to go to a swimming hole before it closed down because of a bunch of liability issues. And, I mean, yeah, it was obvious. But, I mean, back then, there wasn't as much... I mean, okay, so I've watched other videos on YouTube, right? Of things where it was a lot of negligence prior to, like, you know, something happened, you know, traumatically to some people, you know, either by death or maim. And of course, back then there wasn't as many standards with, you know, being overly protective. So that's why you have regulations like you don't have so many people that can be in a building stuff, or like in a room or whatever. There's reasons why it's in place. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, because if you got a bunch of cramped people in a small space and there's a fire or something, you gotta have people trampled on and everything else. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, saying that a lot of this stuff is not any good. There is some good to it, and then there's also a trade-off to the bad for some other little things. Like, I remembered this one town I used to live at. There was this place, well, everyone called it like a trail, right? But it wasn't a trail. Now, the city, I mean, I've went down it a couple of times. It's steep and everything. It's not meant to be walking on, but people do it anyways. I don't know why they built it that way. Maybe that's how you build something like that. Well, anyways, this trail, which everyone called like a sewer trail, because it's a sewer underneath it or something. But it's like this long, flat trail. And, of course, there's no signs. So that's the thing. There's no signs to tell you not to be on there or whatever. Amongst other things. And so somebody rode their bicycle one day. And this has been years. This has been decades that people have been on this stupid thing. And not a single lawsuit, right? Until recently. And I don't know what the outcome is on that thing. But like some woman supposedly got hit by a tree branch where she wasn't paying attention, and then it got her off the bicycle and she got hurt. And she was riding the trail. Now, I can understand that there's no sign on there, therefore, like, how can somebody know if this is an official trail or not, right? But then if you're suing a city because of your injuries, you hit a tree branch. That's your own fault. Now, granted, yeah, it is the city's fault that they didn't put a sign there and say, hey, you're not supposed to be here. This is not a trail. Get off. Get off my lawn, you kids. The tree branch was probably, the tree branch was probably hanging in a place to where, like, it's not meant for people, not meant to be cleared out for a person to be walking on in the first place. Because normally the city's pretty good at, like, trimming tree branches back, you know what I mean? Over sidewalks and stuff for a reason. Because it's a space to climb on. Now, it's her fault to be riding a bicycle on a very steep incline. Not paying attention and hitting a branch. I wonder if she got a settlement yet. And how much percentage is like her fault versus the city's? I'm very curious when that comes out. What the jurors kind of like say about it. I mean, they put a sign up ever since the lawsuit was filed. So there's that. I mean, you can get around it. Oh my word, look at this. It's a rare room indeed. Hey, we got the terrible twin things. But it's like this. It's like you have to put those kind of things out anymore. And now, attorneys recommend that to their corporate clients to put that kind of stuff on there. They have to. You look at like almost every kind of food thing, toy, whatever. There's all kinds of warnings. And they have to do it for liability reasons. Now, it's nice. Now, on the flip side, now, some things like, say, you're eating food at a restaurant or something. Well, not a restaurant. Let's see. What would be a good example? Say you buy a box of mac and cheese, right? Kraft or something. And on the box, it say may contain gluten, soy, dairy, all that stuff. Now, I think in that regard, that's really good because that also protects the individual, with health problems because people can be severely allergic. And so someone like that, like, I know that, for like a lot of products, like Pringles, for example, it's got gluten in it, right? Now, many years ago, I probably didn't care and I keep eating them and didn't know about it. Now, French fries, too, now that's a little bit more of a difficult thing to, like, know unless you actually ask, is the thing. You don't know if it's gluten unless you ask. And I found out it was gluten. They put gluten in French fries. I didn't know that. Now, see, that's something that I didn't know, and I learned something interesting about it. Now, I guess you could make the argument that someone that doesn't know, like, something they should know, but they don't know, may learn from something from these products. Be like, oh yeah, it's not safe. For this child or whatever. So I can understand that, I guess, but like, for me, there's a lot of stuff that it should be kind of well known. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know how you. I mean, when I was in school, I was, taught about, was it Eddie the Eagle? He was a mascot that tried to get kids to, like, stay away from firearms and tell an adult. It's like, the whole slogan was, like, stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell an adult. You know how I memorized that for over 20 years? Because they had a song that kept repeating it constantly. And rightfully so, because, like, I mean, okay, so that gets more controversial if I talk about something like that. But what I mean is, with proper education, a child could learn how to use it properly from an adult. And as long as they're supervised by an adult and stuff, then it's fine. But this is kind of an overall educational message in case of children just discovering it. They have no clue. Because, like, you can't just, you know, try to educate one set of children. It's like, hey, you know how to use a gun, kids? And, you know, proper firearm safety and everything? As opposed to where it's like, you know, you just teach them all because it takes a lot of time. And they could be lying to you. Some kids be like, oh, yeah, I know how to use one. I don't need the education. But I think this is a good way to where it's like you let everybody know, regardless if they got experience with it or not. And regardless if they have experience with it or not, you want to stay away from it. Same thing with railroad safety too. Like, oh yeah, I know about railroad safety. Well, when I was a kid, I didn't know much about it. I real little. That's where I learned about it. Of course. I mean, now, I mean, like, obviously, yeah. Stay the hell away from the railroad tracks when the train's coming. Don't put anything on the tracks to derail it. Don't throw anything to the trail, you know, don't throw anything at the train. Stuff like that. I knew someone who was, was recording a film. They were like, they were doing their own little short film thing, evidently. They want to do their own, whatever. I don't know what they were trying to do. They were wanting to film something. Well, anyways, they were on the train tracks, I guess, and at night. And then they were caught, and they were caught with trespassing charges and stuff. Plus, it was extremely dangerous. Now, don't get me wrong, it'd be kind of cool to be on train tracks at night, but it's not worth the risk of a trespassing charge. But the trespassing charge is kind of there. Again, it's like, it's weird as it sounds, it's also a liability protection for, you know, the company. They have to put that in place because if somebody dies and they didn't have like a thing put down there or whatever, you know, a law put down there for something like that for this private property, then people would get killed, and then surprise, surprise, there's lawsuits. Even with those kind of charges in place and somebody gets around that, you know, rule and they actually end up getting killed, there's still lawsuits involved. But they're mitigated more because they have all these different things in place, and so they can argue in court, hey, we had these in place, but they kind of slipped through the cracks to get through it. Like, nobody was there in time to, like, catch them in the act before anything can happen. You could also argue there could be, like, negligence with not catching them on time. But then how do you determine that? Like, see, it's just all this, like, legal mumbo-jumbo stuff where it's like, you just don't know. And I'm not an attorney. Speaking of attorney stuff, I remember this music that used to play on... not music. This commercial used to play on TV. They might still do that. Goldman... Was it Goldman Water... or Goldwater's law firm? I forgot where it's from. Somewhere in the United States. They would play this very eerie music, and I like it. As weird as it sounds. Like, the music behind it was, like, very eerie, but it was a lawsuit commercial. They made all sorts of different kind of ones. Mostly the mesothelioma ones. But they had other, like, medical lawsuit stuff, too. It's like, bing, bong, bing, bong. And it's like, very, like, 90s. That's why I would describe it. Very 90s, like, instrumental stuff. I want to get a copy of that somehow. I don't know if the law firm would, like, let me use that for something. Listen to ambient noise. ASMR. You're being you're receiving a free consultation from your attorney about mesothelioma at Goldwater. I think they get free consultations, don't they? Which means that they give you like, they listen to your story and see if you have a case or not. I think that's what it pretty much comes down to it. I mean, I've hired attorneys before over the years. I mean, they know their stuff. I mean, depending on which one you get, but like, they know their stuff for the most part. I'm not gonna argue with them. I mean, I hired attorneys not for like bad reasons or anything like that. I'm not a bad boy. But I even hired a private investigator once. That was fun. I actually learned quite a bit from that investigator about how like the system works with looking for people and stuff. Not like a stalker or anything, but like it was like some kind of a person that took off with some money from me, and others, and they ran off with it after not doing the project. Found out just scores of information on this person. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Does this give me... Oh, damage up, okay.
Health down.
That's right, the pills. They give me something. Now, I'm not trying to be here to be like, wow, this person is better than this person and have a better outcome with these lawsuits. I'm saying, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, when you have something like, say, the kid with the, with the Pokeball thing, it's like, at what point, at what point is it, like, common sense in which, oh, look at that, Vanishing Twin. I hadn't seen this one in a while. At what point is it common sense in which one, what's common sense and what isn't for, like, something like that, I mean, we're still learning about what's good to avoid and what's bad to avoid, I mean? Especially all these contradictions to society. You hear one medical study, it's like, oh, studies show that coffee's bad for you. Another study is like, study shows coffee's good for you. And it's like, well, who do you believe? Everything's contradictions or funded to be, one-sided. Because there's that, too. Oh, yeah, we have a full breakfast meal every day. It's good for you. Sponsored by a very highly profitable sugar cereal company. You know what I mean? So, I mean, who do you believe? You gotta have to make that kind of judgment call is the thing. Do some research. Determine what you think is right. But what is right? Now we're getting all the not physiological, but like, I guess it would be something like that. Here we are, questioning our own logic and what is determined to be right or not. Philosophy, man. I actually read a philosophy book a couple of years ago. Yeah, a couple of years ago. Meditations from Marcus Aurelius. Pretty dark stuff. I mean, a good sense of dark. It gives you kind of a eye-opening. Like these people, like they sit around and they think. And they write stuff down. It's like, oh, you know what? I learned about something like this. Okay, let's put this down. That's a lot of thinking. Sitting down and thinking and pondering and learning lessons from this and that. Oh, my God. I mean, we're going to be doing, like, those many years ago. You have a Game Boy. I never read Socrates stuff or the other famous like philosophers. But yeah, when I was talking about earlier about like watching YouTube videos of this, oh, what's the golden version of this? Deals 6 damage per beam. Well, I don't even know why I'm taking the paperclip thing if like, yeah. Also, I noticed the beam's like much thicker. Of course, with lawsuits, there's like a percentage of fault they have, which is like... So say, you know, you get a thing where it's like, oh, well, okay, so the juror... I think it's either... I think it's a choice if you can have the jurors to determine it or the judge. Percentage of who's at fault. I think it's usually the jurors to determine that. And they kind of explained why and how. And so, like, percentage of who's at fault, like, say, a company's at fault, the less of a percentage you get for them to being at fault, the less, you know, money you get out of a settlement or whatever. And I'm like, okay. Which makes sense, right? Because it's like, you can't be like, you know, given the same amount of money, regardless of the percentage of who's at fault or not. We'll take the Polaroid. Why not? Oh, that's why not. I could just reroll. What am I doing here? I don't know. See blood. We got plenty of damage. Wow, this is gonna be like risky, isn't it? Why not? Oh, I was wondering what that charge shot was. But it's like, oh yeah, I went down this trail. I mean, to be fair, it was never advertised anywhere, like where there's a trail or not. Just people around town would call it the sewer trail because they called it that, and it wasn't meant to be a trail. It's like, oh, I remember that when I was a kid, and then it's like, then you got this one person comes out and decides to get hurt, and then, or maybe not decide to get hurt. I don't think it's intentional. Gets hit by a tree branch and gets severely injured. Unless they're a masochist. They're desperate for money. Kind of reminds me of, just reading a little bit about this trend in China. Which is why there's a lot more, camera footage with, drivers now in China, because there was a law that was passed some years ago there that if somebody gets hit by a car in China, then it doesn't matter like how severe the injuries are. Then they can get paid quite a bit from the person who caused the accident for the rest of their lives. Or a very long time, something like that. Either a very long time or the rest of their lives. And so, as you expect, there are people cropping up all over the place, purposely trying to get hit or pretend they got hit. And it happens a lot. So you imagine people were just starting to get like dash cameras and stuff there in order to cover their butts. Because people try to find a way to take advantage of the system. I mean, there's even attorneys, US anywhere, who find like a little loophole with like a product that doesn't have like a certain thing to it or whatever. Like it doesn't give you this disclaimer. Like for example, the whole Red Bull gives you wings slogan, right? Now, this person's like, oh, it didn't give me wings, and there's no disclaimer that it won't give me wings, so therefore I'm going to sue you. I kid you not. That was the thing. So I think after that, but not Budweiser, Red Bull had to change the thing to where it's like, you know, a disclaimer that it doesn't give you wings. But you see, you think, well, this person is absolutely stupid. I think, yeah, in a different regard. I don't think they actually believed in it. They were just pretending to be stupid. And took them to court for it because they know they get a payout. Because Red Bull is a huge sponsor of different things. It's a big energy drink company. Of course someone's going to cash out on that. They find a loophole and they try to take an advantage of it. As crappy as it is, people do that. People search for that kind of stuff. I mean, they search for ways to cause liability harm against a company or an individual on purpose. There are people out there that do that. Entities, companies, attorneys, you name it. There are people out there looking for some kind of, like, way to game the system through somebody's slight mistake in not putting a disclaimer somewhere. So I guess you could say, like, people have to do that for these frivolous lawsuits, not just, like, stupid people, but also, like, frivolous lawsuits and, you know, somebody, you know, being stupid enough to recreate it. Like you see in car commercials, too. It's like, do not, what do they say? Like, do not do this or something like that. And it's like done by a professional driver on a closed course. They always put that disclaimer in the bottom of the commercials. Or like certain commercials, they show like some kind of like a little, you know, gimmick going on. And they would put it in a tiny text about like, do not replicate it or whatever. Do not try this at home and stuff like that. They have to do that. Now, yeah, I would say it's extremely silly. But I was saying earlier, it's like they shouldn't do that. But then it's like, now I think about it, maybe they have to because of that very thing. Oh my goodness gracious. Look at all this stuff. Oh yeah, we get all these items. We get double deals, right? Or not the greatest ones. Hurry up! Come on. Come on! Spawns one pickup, huh? Oh, maybe, well... Did I not have a spacebar item earlier? Okay, whatever. Let's go to the secret room. Pop this in there. I don't know, it's just... Speaking of a liability, I wonder when that was going to drop down on me. I'm suing the knife manufacturer and the string manufacturer for doing that to me, even though I picked it up and I knew there was going to be a liability once I get hit. I think it's about to get me right there. Caught me off guard. What was I gonna say? Whatever, I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Anyways, thanks for watching, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.